In this video, we'll be looking at sums of trig functions. Our first example is evaluate the cosine of 60 degrees plus the sine of 45. To start, let's draw our reference triangle for 60. And we know that the measures that we can put on the sides, if the hypotenuse is 2, the side opposite the 60 is half the hypotenuse times the square root of 3, so that would be 1 square root of 3. And then this angle is 30, so the side opposite the 30 is half the hypotenuse, so that would be 1. For this part of the problem, we'll need a reference triangle which shows a 45-degree angle. And we know that if, this should be a right angle here also. If one of the acute angles is 45, the other one is also 45. And so on this triangle is 1, 1, root 2. All right, so cosine of 60. Cosine is defined as adjacent over hypotenuse. So my adjacent side is 1. My hypotenuse is 2. So the cosine of 60 is 1 over 2. The sine of 45, sine is defined as opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite side would be 1. The hypotenuse is root 2, so we have 1 over root 2. Next we would rationalize this denominator, multiplying top and bottom by root 2. So this problem then becomes 1 over 2 plus root 2 over 2, because root 2 times root 2 is just 2. And then finally, we can put these two fractions together because they both have a denominator of 2. So this would be 1 plus radical 2 over 2. Now remember, you cannot add 1 and root 2 together because 1 is a rational number and root 2 is irrational. So we have to just write it that way. Our next example, for a 30-degree angle, we need a reference triangle that will be 30, 60, 90. This will be my 60. You can put a 2 on the hypotenuse. The side opposite the 30 is 1. The side opposite the 60 is square root of 3. For a 45, 45, we need an isosceles right triangle. So 45 degrees here. This is the right angle, 45 here. And we can do 1, 1, root 2 again on that figure. And tangent is defined as opposite over adjacent. So the opposite side is 1. The adjacent side is root 3. So I have 1 over square root of 3. The cosine is defined as adjacent over hypotenuse. So 1 over root 2. Now both of these terms need to be rationalized. So multiply top and bottom of this one by root 3. And multiply top and bottom of this one by root 2. And so this sum becomes root 3 over 3 plus root 2 over 2. Now in order to combine these two fractions, we need a common denominator. We'll make that 6. So we'll multiply top and bottom of this fraction by 2, and we'll multiply top and bottom of this fraction by 3. So now I have 2 root 3 over 6 plus 3 root 2 over 6. Now they have a common denominator, but this one is a radical 3 term, and this one is a radical 2 term. They're both irrational, but we can't combine unless those radicals are the same. So I'm going to have to write this. I can use my common denominator of 6, but I'll write it as 2 root 3 plus 3 root 2. My next example, or a 45-degree angle. Let's draw a reference triangle with 45 degrees in both of the acute angles. Here's my right angle. Again, I'm going to put 1, 1, root 2 on those sides. For my 30, I'll draw a reference triangle with 30 down here, which makes this 60. And I'll put a 2 on the hypotenuse. So the side opposite the 30 is half the hypotenuse. The side opposite the 60 is half the hypotenuse times the square root of 3. Alright, tangent is defined as opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 1. The adjacent side is 1. So I have 1 over 1 for tangent of 45. This one is 2 times, and then I need the tangent of 30. Tangent is defined as opposite over adjacent. So the tangent of 30 I could write as 1 over the square root of 3. And this is 1. When I multiply here, I get 2 over the square root of 3. But I'm going to need to rationalize, so I'll multiply top and bottom by radical 3. So this expression then is 1 plus 2 radical 3 over 3. And then if we wish to make this into a single fraction, I would write this 1 as 3 over 3. So I could write this as 3 plus 2 root 3 over 3. My last example is evaluate 6 sine 30 plus 1 over root 2 times the tangent of 60. So for this reference triangle, I'm going to put a 30 down here and 60 here. Again, I'm going to put a 2 on the hypotenuse, so the side opposite the 30 is half of that, which is 1. And the side opposite the 60 is root 3. Now I can use this triangle to calculate my tangent of 60 as well. So let's go ahead and do this thing. We have square root of 6 times the sine of 30. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of 30 is 1 over 2 plus, and then I have the 1 over root 2 multiplied by tangent of 60 is defined as opposite over adjacent. So my opposite of 60 is root 3. My adjacent is 1. So this is root 3 over 1. When I multiply, it becomes root 6 over 2. This one becomes root 3 over root 2. I need to rationalize this second fraction here. So multiply top and bottom by root 2. So my first one I'll just copy, root 6 over 2 plus, this is root 6 over 2. When I add these, I have 1 root 6 over 2 plus 1 root 6 over 2 gives me 2 root 6 over 2, which is just root 6.